Shalom, shalom. Call halal, Yahweh Shem Abishai, Bahashem Rakak Wadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all the Akim out there, my fellow laborers that are doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. Right, to the hopefully elect and the Akwaf that are listening and learning. Right, to you I say shalom. This is a story that played on RT with these two political analysts. The sister right here, I don't know her name. It's actually the first time I saw her. And the other chick, I think her name is Darlene, something like that. I think it's Darlene. Her, I know because I've watched many of her videos about the MGTOW thing. This Edomite chick who's on here with her, and she spoke a lot about how the women's rights and women are actually driving men away from them, which is destroying the fabric of America. This, that, and the other, traditional marriage, and men don't want to deal with women in relationships and that sort of thing. Which there's a lot of truth in that, but that's not what this is about. Basically, this is a story about Colin Kaepernick and Nike, which I do believe is being used as a distraction to a lot of very major important things that are going on in the world. And you know, every time war breaks out in Syria, especially once America, Israel, and Russia, you know, or China, the main players, start, you know, firing weapons, you know, whether it be dropping bombs or their troops going at each other, there's always some story that comes out that takes everything away. And basically America is gearing up for all these things to happen that we've been speaking about. And this is just another distraction to control the narrative, to keep people's mindset, you know, or there's what's that saying that, you know, I can't think of what I'm trying to say. You know, something about you distract with one hand so that you don't see what's going on the other. But, you know, but anyway, let's let a little bit of this play. And we're going to talk about the significance of the subject matter that they're talking about, which is really a distraction, but it is a very important subject nevertheless.
So for more on this in the day's news, we are joined by our political panel, attorney and former Georgia State Representative LaDon Jones, and conservative commentator and millennial Republican strategist Deanna Lorraine. Thanks for joining us, ladies. Let's start with you, LaDon. Google is a private company, so why can't they do just what they wish? Should Google have a loyalty to the wishes of a standing government?
Absolutely not. And I honestly think that this complaint is really more of a, let's try to pivot the discussion. If you're going to blame us for meddling, we're going to blame you for meddling. And then trying to connect a private company like Google with the U.S. government, I absolutely think that there's no bearing. And however, I will say corporations have a responsibility to respect what different cultures, governments, and religions and special days that they have. I don't think it would be too much to ask for them to take a break on the election day.
Well, Lorraine, do you agree? I mean, where is the First Amendment apply to Google?
Well, I think that it should, but at the same time, you know, Google has been known to, you know, steer the public opinion so much. They are so very influential in public opinion and in shaping the narrative, almost to, I think, dangerous levels at this point. I think we can all admit that, and especially with steering things with conservative censorship.
Now I have to speak on that. Okay, America has been shaping the narrative. And how do they do that? By all the lies. By removing things from history, by telling fabricated history, by putting up a pale face in a place where it was a melanated person in history, and things of that nature, all right? Claiming to be the people of the Lord, you know, through deceit. So I'm going to get a scripture that, you know, that's a very powerful scripture that comes out often. And it comes out so often because it's so true, all right? Because this is how Esau got control over everything, through lies, deceit, rape, robbery, and murder, okay? And not always in that order, but always those things. This is Sirach 10 and 8, all right? From the Apocrypha, okay? And you know, and as of recently, you know, they've been saying all along, trying to defend the lie, their controlling of the narrative, trying to say that the Apocrypha was not canonized, it was never a part of the Bible. No, it was always a part of the Bible, and they removed it. So that's another that's another example of exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, and the proof in the pudding is that in Donald Trump's inauguration, become president, they read from this book, the Apocrypha, which was always a part of the Bible, authorized King James Version. They pulled it out, okay? They pulled it out. And then also John McCain's funeral, they also read from the Apocrypha. So the Apocrypha is a part of the Bible, always have been. Okay? But this is Sirach 10:8, and it reads, because of unrighteous dealings and injuries and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So you can lie your way into rulership. You can murder your way into rulership. You can steal your way into rulership. And one of the best ways to do that is by controlling the narrative, the information, controlling the way the people feel about the enemy. And these Edomites that came here to America, the same MO that they use to gain all the other countries, man. They came over, you know, after they put people in slavery, they demonized them, so they have no problem keeping them in that inhumane condition, to kill them and use their bodies until they were useless, until they just died. All right. Then they set up a corrupt banking system. All right, where they would fund both sides of a war until those people's societies collapsed, and then they would come in and take over those people's natural resources and take over their systems for pennies on the dollar, man. And they would use that same you know, remedy, that same recipe over and over again. And this is how they got control over the earth, man. This is how the bankers got so wealthy and so powerful that they actually control policy in governments. Mayor Rothschild, I think his name was Mayor Amschel Rothschild. His famous quote when he said, "Give me control over a country's monetary system," roughly paraphrased, "and I care not who its leader is, who its president or king, or none of that. If you control the money behind closed doors, when you sit down behind closed doors, the leaders are going to do what you want them to do." Okay?
That is very real right now. They control the narrative, and so I think that it's valid what Russia is saying, that they don't want them to try to shift their narrative over there, and I think it's very valid. I think it's legitimate, and I think that Google has definitely sort of overstood and overspoke in many ways, and I think most people can agree with that on both sides of the aisle.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up standing, because speaking of standing, it looks like Nike is standing by Colin Kaepernick, and their stock today was down by 2.6%, and social media was flooded with people throwing away, burning their Nike sandals. I didn't see the same of people buying Nike in bulk. Do you think that, so did Nike do the right thing by standing by Colin Kaepernick and basically getting involved in social justice? And let's go back with you, Lorraine.
Absolutely not. I think this was a terrible move on Nike's part. I mean, you know, to politicize Nike, people are already so upset and feel disrespected what they're doing with the NFL, what they're doing with football. This was the one pastime that people really enjoyed, and disconnecting from everything, disconnecting from politics. And then to actually have to turn on and see that it's become political now. And many people feel disrespected, many Americans, many veterans.
And see, so many Americans and many veterans, and know that, like I said, when they start screaming American, American, that's really cold talk for Edomite Americans. They're the ones that feel disrespected. Because why? Because the truth is out about them. Because what Colin Kaepernick was standing or not standing for, however you want to look at it, was injustice against his people. All right? And you know, and for you people out there that you know, that believe in mixed race, because I heard a couple different people speak on this. There's no such thing as mixed. You're whatever your father is. Thus says the Bible. That's what the Bible tells you clearly over and over again. All right. I don't know. Moses had sons with a Hamite, a so-called Egyptians, a Hamite, a so-called African. His children were Levites, just like he was. All right. Joseph married an Egyptian woman also when he was in captivity, and two of the 12 tribes of Israel, which is Manasseh and Ephraim, their mother was a so-called Hamite. Was a Hamite, a so-called African. All right. So there's no such thing. Whatever your father is, thus saith the Bible, that's what you are. So if that were not so, then that would not be the tribe of Manasseh and the tribe of Ephraim. So for you people who say that, you're foolish and clearly don't know what you're talking about. Clearly. Okay? And Colin Kaepernick was actually upset of what he saw. All right? And it was spiritual because because you notice on the Nike ad, he shaved his beard off. Right? He don't have the big beard anymore. At least from what I saw, I couldn't tell that he had a beard anymore. All right? But nevertheless, the way they're upset is because they're being made bare. This is Jeremiah the 7th chapter. Concerning Edom, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, it is wisdom. Is there no more wisdom in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? And yes, their wisdom is fallen. Look at what's happening in their countries, wherever Esau is. Mass poverty and drug addiction worldwide. Low birth rates. Suicides. It's not just here in America, it's around the world. They're even being exterminated down in South Africa, and they're being very quiet about that. All right? And Esau is the minority and have been the minority for a very, very long time. They keep calling everyone else minorities when the truth of the matter it is. Because not only are they at war against themselves, the earth is at war. The sun is killing them, man. These opioids, these drugs, and this low birth rates and the low sperm count of Edomite men. All right? All right? This is verse 8. Fly ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him. The time that I will visit him. And the Esau is being visited, man. All right? That's why he's losing control over everything. All right? And he's acting a damn fool in the streets. Especially through his enforcers, which are the police forces around America here. All right? It says, but I have made Esau bare. This is verse 10. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. And that's what's going to happen, man. They're going to not be. All right? That's part of the curses that's falling upon them. And what you have to understand is that after Esau serves his slavery, his 1,000 years of slavery, he's the only race that's going to get utterly annihilated, like the scripture said, his progeny. You know, Elder Kazak brought that out yesterday. His progeny, meaning his male sperm line. Remember, you're whatever your father is, not your mother. Okay? And there's evidences of in the Bible that proves that. All right? And it's not saying that it's okay for you to go out and just intermingle or intermix with the heathen. All right? Because in the kingdom there won't be any of that. You know? These heathen women won't be bearing your seeds, but they will be your servants, your concubines, and everything else. All right, because it has to be done unto them. All right, thus saith the Bible. Okay, they have to go through what we went through. And remember the example of Moses' children and Joseph's children, who are 2 of the 12 tribes. So that kills that ideology that these people are saying, who just are getting carnal and caught up in their emotions, man. All right? And then when it really comes down to it, to hell with the Star Spangled Banner, man. This is one of the most racist poems ever written. And the fact that they used that poem in 1931 to put it into law to make it the national anthem of America tells you the truth about these Americans, especially upon hearing that 3rd verse. All right? So it was a song or poem that was dedicated to the death and destruction of the Negroes who tried to fight for their freedom. All right? As a matter of fact, I got a little something lined up to prove that point. Let's here we go.
I just wanted to share something with you. Sean King, who writes for the New York Daily News and who I follow on Twitter, and if you don't follow Sean King on Twitter, do so. Sean King is brilliant. And he writes regularly for the New York Daily News. And he wrote this piece called Why I'll Never Stand Again for the Star-Spangled Banner. And I just want to share 3 paragraphs from Sean's piece about this. He says, first off, he's talking about the Star-Spangled Banner. He says, first off, the song, which was originally written as a poem, didn't become our national anthem until 1931, which was 117 years after Francis Scott Key wrote it. Most of us have no true idea what in the hell we've been hearing or singing all these years. But as it turns out, Key's full poem actually has a 3rd stanza, which few of us have ever heard. In it, he openly celebrates the murder of slaves. Yes, really. It goes like this. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave, and the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. And then Sean King goes on to explain what that means. He says, well, it's always been known that the song was written during American slavery, and that when those words about this nation being the land of the free didn't apply to the millions who had been held in bondage, few of us had any idea that the song itself was rooted in the celebration of slavery and the murder of Africans in America who were being hired by the British military to give them strength, not only in the War of 1812, but in the Battle of Fort McHenry in 1814. These black men were called the Corps of Colonial Marines, and they served valiantly for the British military, and Francis Scott Key despised them. He was glad to see them experience terror and death in war, to the point that he wrote a poem about it, and that poem is now our national anthem. While I fundamentally reject the notion that anyone who owned other human beings was either good, moral, or decent, Francis Scott Key left absolutely no doubt that he was a stone-cold bigot. He came from generations of plantation-owning bigots. Yeah, I don't call them plantations anymore. I call them concentration camps. But anyhow, they got wealthy off of it.
There they go. This is the scripture. This is Proverbs 22:16. He that oppresseth the poor to increase his riches, and he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want. And that means poverty. All right, they're going to be brought low for what they've done. All right, so to give you a little bit of history there. All right, what happened was when the British were coming in, all right, trying to take back over their areas that these rebel Americans broke away from, and they were trying to take over their interest. They were trying to get it back. Okay, what they did was they came in and when the war and the fighting started, they took a few towns and freed some of the Negroes who were being gathered up, like the movie in 12 Years a Slave. Remember, they gathered up a freeman. You got to understand, there were free Negroes that were already in the Northeast when slavery started. Negroes were already here, so-called. All right, and in some cases you couldn't tell them apart from the natives. All right, because that's a whole nother story. Because what Esau did was he reclassified a lot of natives that were here and labeled them Negroes. All right, and truth be said, they were the same people anyway. But you know, that's another lesson in itself. But nevertheless, some of these freed slaves and some of these freemen who were being threatened to go into slavery or being snatched up into slavery, the British Army promised them freedom. And if you were a slave who had just been beaten, watched your sister, your mother get raped, your brother, your cousin, your father, your uncle get castrated or his foot cut off or running away like Kunta Kinte, trying to fight back, get a bunch of dogs set on him and attack him when he didn't want to Mandingo fight anymore, like they showed you in the movie Django of the character D'Artagnan. All right, so you want to fight back your oppressors, and then you die in battle. And someone writes a song that glorifies about your death and your destruction from getting shot by cannons, all right, and then make it your national anthem. That's what we're talking about here. And these Edomites and want you to stand up and get angry when you don't want to stand up or acknowledge a song that's written about the destruction of your people. All right? That's the Esau for you. This is Jeremiah 49 and 16. It says, thy terribleness have deceived thee, and the pride of thy heart, O thou that dwelleth in the clefts of the rock, that holdest the height of the hill, thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle. I will bring thee down from this, saith Yahweh. You Edomites are going to be brought down, man, from your high place. And yes, you do exalt yourself as the eagle. That's why that's another clue as to who Esau Edom is, because the so-called white man has always bared the eagle as a symbol. All right, and as you see, the apartment buildings behind him is up high, and Esau likes to live up high because it's in their spirit to do so. When you look at the skylines of all these cities, it's like the recreation of the mountains where they came from. All right, and the apartments are the holes in the clefts of the rock. All right, especially when you're in Chicago coming in off Ogden. All right, that road, the way that hill, the way those roads roll into downtown, is like you're going through a hillish mountaintops, and you're looking at caves to your left and right. All right, and you can see the light from the apartments are like the fire burning in the caves. All the people living in different little holes in the rocks, man. It looks like you're rolling into mountains when you're coming in off Ogden into downtown Chicago. That's exactly what it looks like. The buildings almost look like rolling ranges, man. So there's no doubt that this is describing Esau Edom, all right, whose end is going to be utter annihilation and the end of their progeny. And let's just get one more scripture and close this lesson. This is the book of Revelation, end game, what happens at the end. Okay, in the Spanish, in the Santa Biblia, it's referred to as apocalypse, or the book of Apocalypse, right? Which basically that's what it means to reveal the end. Roughly paraphrased. This is Revelation 13:9 and 10. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And there's 3 precepts in this Bible. Isaiah 33:1, I know what that one says. That says, that they're going to be spoiled and dealt treacherously with. All right, so they dealt treacherously. Now people are going to deal treacherously with them. So you know what? Let's read these 3 precepts. Let's go ahead and read them. And this is another Bible that I have, and I'm finding that some of the precepts in here. This is how you know that Esau knows to a certain extent. They know that they're the Edomites, and they know that they're eventually going to go into slavery. All right. That's why they're trying to slow down and hold off from doing things now that we keep bringing out the prophecies. But this is Isaiah 33:1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt deal treacherously, they shall make an end to deal treacherously. They shall deal treacherously with thee. All right? And that's basically what you're seeing now. Esau's all in this apologetic mode, but it's too late. It's too, there was a song from the 70s, Too Much, Too Little, Too Late. It was a love song. I remember that song. All right, this is Jeremiah 15:2. I'm just curious to what it says. Let me go. Okay, it reads, and it shall come to pass, if they say unto thee, whither shall we go forth? Then thou shalt tell them, thus saith Yahweh, such are for death. Woo! To death, and such are for the sword, for the sword. To the sword, such as are for the famine, to the famine, and such are for captivity, to captivity. So, wow. Hey, it's a wrap for you Edomites, man. So the Lord made some of you for the sword, some of you for famine, and some of you for captivity. And that's exactly where you're headed. Yeah. And then it's got Jeremiah 43:11. Let's see. Last scripture. And it reads, and when he cometh, He shall smite the land of Egypt. That matches up with Deuteronomy 28. We shall go into Egypt again, into captivity and slavery. All right. And he shall deliver. Such are for death, as for death to death. Such are for captivity to captivity. And such are for the sword to the sword. The Lord is coming to annihilate America and Americans. And just like they are, when they say that, they're often referring to Edomites. That's who the Bible's referring to. Call Allah Yahweh Ba'Shem Hawashai Ba'Hashem Rakak Wadash Wa Abba Babal.